Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tale, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, and shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late now. Let's get into today's tale-it. My sister's wedding, I was shocked to see my dress swapped for a maid's uniform. She grinned and whispered, "It suits your status, doesn't it?" As guests snickered, I served cake with a smile an hour. Later, I unveiled the real reason I came, and the groom's face turned white as ashes when he heard it. But I suppose if I had to pinpoint the start of it all, of the unraveling, the betrayal, the quiet plotting, I'd say it began the moment I opened that garment bag. I was standing in a beautiful guest suite at a lavish country estate, staring down at a uniform that clearly wasn't meant for a guestlet. Alone, the sister of the bride. My sister Bianca had handed it to me with all the sweetness of a reconciliation. "I had it made for you," she'd said. I stupidly smiled and thanked her. We hadn't been close in years. That's an understatement, really. After our mom passed, Bianca took everything: our home, the inheritance, the photo albums, even the damn antique tea set. Mom said we'd both share. She said I wasn't stable enough to handle assets. She framed it as a concern, but it knew better. She always had a way of taking control while sounding like she was doing you a favor. We hadn't spoken in over a year when she reached out with a wedding invitation. The note inside had that same syrupy tone she always used when she wanted something. "It would mean the world if you came. Let's start fresh. Love, Bianca." And despite everything, I went because some stupid part of me still wanted to believe she meant it. Should have known better. From the second I arrived, things felt off. The welcome was warm, too warm, like the kind of hug that lingers just a second. Too long. Bianca introduced me to her friends with this rehearsed brightness, like she was trying to sell. The image of the loving sister people glanced at me strangely with little polite nods and awkward smiles. I figured it was just in my head. Anxiety past baggage, but something felt manufactured. Then came the dress. Well, not a dress I was expecting. Soft fabric, maybe something champagne-colored, elegant like the rest of the bridal party. But when I unzipped the bag that morning, I found a maid's uniform, black, starched with a frilly apron and flat black shoes. At first, aloft, genuinely, I thought maybe it was a pranker, a mix-up with staff wardrobes, until I found the note pinned to the collarlets. "Not pretend you're above this. You'll be helping serve. Smile for the guests." See, my hands trembled as I read it twice, 3 times, trying to make sense of it. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew her handwriting, I knew her cruelty, and I knew exactly what she was doing. I should have left. I thought about it, taking my bag and walking out, calling a cab, never speaking to her again. But instead, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my reflection in the full-length mirror. Then I got up and he put on the uniform. I walked into the reception hall with a silver tray of champagne glasses, the room buzzing with voices and clinking cutlery. Bianca turned as if on cue. She looked me up and down like she was appraising a centerpiece. Then she leaned in close enough for only me to hear and said with that infuriating smile, "It suits your status, doesn't it?" And then she walked away laughing, tossing her hair like she'd just delivered the line of the year. Some guests noticed me. A few whispered. I caught fragments. "Is that her sister she's serving?" "Oh, that's awkward." One of her friends snickered openly. Heard someone say, "I guess not. Everyone's born to wear silk." I clenched. My teeth so hard I thought they might crack, but I didn't break. I smiled. I took trays. I offered drinks. I handed out slices of wedding cake. I even posed for a photo when someone, clearly in on the joke, asked for a picture with the helpful sister. What they didn't know, what Bianca never knew, was that I hadn't come to play the fool. I had come with something else entirely. For months I had debated whether to tell Thomas the groom what I knew. I'd found out about Bianca's affair completely by accident. A mutual acquaintance had reached out asking if I'd heard about Bianca and that personal trainer she's been flaunting like a trophy. I hadn't. But I started digging. I found the messages, the hotel bookings, the payments, several of them from Thomas's own accounts. I even found a very candid photo of them holding hands, leaving a hotel together in Manchester. I don't know if she was sloppy or smug. Probably both. I printed everything, tucked it in a folder, held onto it. I wasn't sure I'd ever use it. I wasn't looking for revenge, but I kept it because deep down I knew Bianca would push me one step too far, and here I was in a maid's uniform, being laughed at like a sideshow. The sun had started to dip, casting golden light across the hall. The DJ announced the first dance. Guests gathered. Bianca took Thomas's hand, beaming like she'd just won the lottery. The music swelled, a slow romantic waltz. I slipped away upstairs, where I tucked the manila folder into my overnight bag. My hands didn't shake as I walked back down. The stairs. I wasn't nervous anymore. I felt clear, focused, lighter than I had all day. I waited until the music faded. People clapped. Thomas leaned in to kiss Bianca's cheek. She looked euphoric, almost untouchable. I stepped up to the mic. The room didn't go. Silent all at once. At first, there was just confusion. A few guests kept clapping, one or two tilted their heads toward the mics, squinting at me under the soft amber lights. Bianca's face froze mid-smile. Thomas looked toward me, puzzled, smiled softly, and tapped the microphone once the light thump echoed through the grand hall that got everyone's attention. "Hi," I said, my voice clear but calm. "Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say a few words." I saw Bianca take a step forward, hand halfway raised, lips already parting like she was about to say something, probably to shut me down, but I met her gaze directly and gave a tiny rehearsed smile. She hesitated. "My name is Elise. I'm Bianca's sister. Some of you may have noticed I've been assisting today." A few murmurs rippled through the room, some confused, others amused. I continued. "I want to start by saying thank you genuinely to those who treated me kindly today. There were a few of you. To the rest, you can keep your sympathy. I won't need it." I held up the manila folder. "I didn't come here to work. This wedding, I didn't come here to serve orders or wipe up champagne. Someone spilled without so much as an apology. I came here with this." I gave the folder a gentle pat. You could feel the atmosphere. Shifting nervous glances, tension, thick and silent. The kind of tension that precedes the drop of a match into gasoline. Bianca took another step toward me. "Elise, I don't know what you think." I held up one hand, palm open, without even looking at her. She stopped this. I continued. "Contains emails, texts, and financial transactions that show Bianca has been having an affair. Not a long time ago, not once, and not under confusion of very intentional affairs, spanning at least 8 months. The man's name is Mason, a personal trainer at the Allgate Athletic Club." Soft gasp from someone near the back. "Some of you probably met him," I added. "He's very charming." Great smile. Bianca was kind enough to cover his gym equipment purchases and a few hotel suites using Thomas's card. That did it. Thomas turned toward Bianca. Slowly, his face was blank, stunned but not surprised. There's a difference. His mouth opened slightly and then closed again. I flipped through the folder, held up a page with bank statements, bold charges listed under boutique. Stay and private wellness consult. Bianca's voice snapped through the silence. "That's enough, Elise. You are not doing this right now." I met her gaze. Again. "No, Bianca, I'm not doing this. You did this. I'm just telling the truth. Something you've always had a very casual relationship with." I turned slightly to address the room. I was going to keep this to myself. I really was. Even after what she did to me today, I didn't come here to hurt anyone. But when she humiliated me in front of 200 people, when she made me walk around in this ridiculous outfit while people laughed behind my back, she made it clear she still thinks she can treat people like dirt and get away with it. I let that hang in the air. Then I added, softer this time. "I'm not a victim and I'm not your servant. I'm her sister, and I came here with receipts." For a few moments, no one moved. Then Thomas turned to Bianca and asked, "Is it true?" Her mouth opened, her face. "Why does the flowers in her bouquet?" Adrian, don't listen to her. She's jealous. She always has been." I laughed once, sharp, short, jealous, I said, gesturing at my outfit. "If this is what jealousy looks like, I'd hate to see generosity." Bianca lunged forward a few steps, eyes wild now. "You're insane. You don't know what you're doing." That was when Thomas spoke again. "She's not insane. Are you insane?" He said. His voice was quiet but firm. "She's been calm the whole time. You're the one yelling." Bianca spun toward him, almost pleading. "You're seriously going to believe this on our wedding day? She's doing this because she hates me, Adrian. She brought proof," he said simply. More whispers. Some guests were quietly slipping away. A few just stared, watching Bianca unravel like a lace ribbon being tugged at from the end. I stepped back, giving them space. The folder still in my hands. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't smug. It was just steady. Steadier than I'd felt in years. This moment wasn't about vengeance. It was about balance. And the scales had been tipped for far too long. Bianca didn't cry. That would have taken humility. Instead, her expression hardened. into something, almost regal defensive, cold full of that performative elegance. She wore like a second skin. She glanced around at the guests as though trying to rally them, like someone would step forward and defend her, scold me, call me cruel or unstable or dramatic. But no one moved. Her college friend Zoe looked down at her heels, clutching a half-empty glass of Proca, her old boss. A woman I'd met once during a tense Christmas dinner cleared her throat and turned her back completely. Even her own godmother, the one who used to tell me I needed to be more like Bianca, shifted awkwardly and walked toward the buffet table, eyes averted. That's the thing with people like Bianca. They're magnetic when the show's on. But when the spotlight flickers, when the curtain lifts, just enough to reveal the machinery behind it, people step away. No one wants to be too close when the facade cracks. Thomas Wasselint, still pale, still stiff like a man trying to replay the past year in his head at double speed. I didn't do anything you wouldn't have forgiven, Bianca said finally. Her voice trembled, just slightly enough for a fact. You can't pretend you've been perfect either, Adrian. He flinched, and I realized in that moment she wasn't trying to deny it anymore. She was trying to equalize it, to make whatever she did sound like just another scratch on the surface of a long, complicated love story. But Adrian didn't bite. He looked at mine instead. Can I see it? I handed him the folder. Our fingers didn't touch. I didn't say anything. He opened, it slowly skimming the pages. A few others craned their necks but didn't dare ask to see for themselves. He got to the photograph last. It was black and white, printed from a security camera. Bianca and Mason walking arm in arm through the glass doors of the Street Pancras Renaissance Hotel. Her coat barely covered the curve of her smile. His hand rested on the small of her back. Thomas stared at it for a long time. He didn't blink. Bianca finally walked toward him. We're still us, she said, her voice going oddly soft. This day doesn't have to be ruined. He turned to her slowly. I need air. He walked out. And just like that, the guests began to disperse. It wasn't chaotic. No screaming, no overturned tables, just the strange hush of a room where something invisible is shattered and no one wants to touch the pieces a few people offered me, polite nods or squeezed my arm in quiet. Solidarity. One of the caterers slipped me a water bottle and said, "Well done." Someone else whispered, "About time." Bianca stood in the middle of the room, still in her dress, surrounded by uneaten cake and deflated petals. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. But I didn't approach her. I didn't comfort her. That was the old me. Back in my room, I peeled off the uniform. With slow, deliberate movements, my blouse and trousers were wrinkled but clean. I brushed my hair, put on a bit of lipstick, and packed my things calmly. There was something almost ceremonial about it, folding my clothes, zipping the suitcase, tidying up the room like I was leaving a hotel I'd never return to, not out of spite, just peace. When I opened the door to leave, I found Bianca standing there, barefoot, still in the wedding dress, though now it was slightly wrinkled around the hem and one of the buttons at her shoulder had come loose. I didn't think you'd still be here, she said. I leaned against the doorframe, just about to leave. She looked past me into the room like she expected someone else to be there. Then she looked back at me and her eyes were hard again. You planned that? You waited for the perfect moment to humiliate me? I didn't argue. What did you expect me to do? Asked quietly. Smile and carry trays while you humiliate me for fun. She crossed her arms, but her voice dropped. I invited you because I was trying to make peace. No, I said you invited me so you could remind me of where you think I belong. Her mouth twitched, but she didn't deny it. Not really. You're not better than me. Elise, I didn't laugh. I didn't even smile. I just looked at her, really looked at her, not the curated version, not the gown and the hair and the makeup, just the woman who'd spent her entire life needing to feel 1 inch taller by stepping on someone else's spine. I don't need to be better than you, I said. I just need to stop letting you make me feel small. She blinked once, twice. I stepped past her, and I walked out. The Manor's gravel driveway was bathed in the kind of late afternoon light that makes the world feel quieter than it is. My suitcase wheels clicked over the stone path as I walked toward the waiting cab. I had called. I didn't look back. Not at the towering estate behind me, not at the massive white floral arch still standing awkwardly, with no ceremony left to frame. Not at Bianca, especially not at Bianca. The driver gave me a polite nod as he loaded my bag into the boot. Wedding over early, he asked. You could say that, I said. Climbing into the back seat, the drive out of the countryside felt longer than the one in. Maybe because this time I wasn't carrying a mix of nerves and naive hope. I wasn't imagining what reconciliation might feel like. I wasn't craving my sister's approval like a younger version of me might have. I was just still. There's a strange sort of peace that follows when the storm finally hits, and you're still standing in the weeks that followed. I didn't reach out to Bianca, she didn't reach out to me, but the fallout trickled in through mutual acquaintances, through quiet emails, and a few calls from people I barely remembered but who just had to say how shocked they were. Turns out, Thomas never got on the plane for the honeymoon. He stayed in a hotel for a week, then moved his things out of their flat in Chelsea. The marriage was annulled within a month. I didn't ask for details, I didn't need them. What mattered to me wasn't what happened to Bianca. It was what finally stopped happening to me. No more guilt, no more second going. No more shrinking to accommodate her spotlight. 3 months after the wedding, I got a letter, handwritten, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Bianca, I held it in my hand for a long time before opening it. Part of me expected rage, threats, even legal posturing, but it wasn't that. It was short 3 lines. I thought I was protecting you by keeping you beneath me. Turns out, you never needed me. I just needed you not to leave. I hope someday you'll forgive me. Even if we never speak. Again, I didn't respond. I didn't feel the need to because she was right about one thing anyway. I didn't need her. I'd spent years thinking I did that. Family meant tolerating pain, that being a good sister meant letting her take and take and take, hoping one day she'd hand something back, but she never would have, and that's okay. What happened at the wedding wasn't revenge. Not really. Revenge is loud, sharp, cold-blooded. What did I did? That was reclamation. That was a woman standing up in a room full of polite smiles and expensive silence and saying, enough. I didn't get an apology that day, or validation, or a movie ending where everything gets tied up with hugs and lessons. Learned what I got was my dignity back, and in the end, that's what mattered most.